whatever milestones that Black people make against hate, it ends up benefiting all the other people of color. I can't see what his end game is. The Republican Party is the party of racism, is the party of white supremacy, is the party of hate. This is wrong, and it needs to stop.
Everybody wants to go back and drag that piece of history up, but they don't want to go back and deal with what their ancestors did to the indigenous people and to Black people in this country. You got to go. And you got billionaires talking about going to space, and Jeff Bezos, go, never come back. I hope you get lost. This man has lost his mind.
Boom! Come on, girlfriend. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I host the only online conversation in the world that is for dads and fathers, that is co-sponsored by Dove Men Care and Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And being part of that collaboration in 2021, I was able with that team to reach out to over 100,000 dads and fathers around the world. And as always, I like to say, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on January 29th, 2020. And the first month, it just got gone. It just flew by. But I'm telling you, things are always good on Saturday nights when we have these wonderful ladies live. Aisha K. Staggers and Jill Jones. What's going on, ladies?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Well, it's good to see you. We didn't get to see you live last week, but
I know.
Aisha was not feeling well. But so we're speaking that Aisha's feeling better.
Very good.
Good, but we had a replay, and actually I was speaking to one of my very close associates earlier on this evening, and he went to me, Jill and Aisha and Jill, they don't play. They don't play. He goes, they bring fire. F-I-Y-A-H. They bring fire.
Yeah.
So even
sometimes
on
we have to cool off a little bit, take a weekend to cool off.
Oh my goodness!
Singe down, the atmosphere.
Contributing to climate change.
Oh my goodness!
Big contributors.
Is everyone keeping all right? Keeping safe?
Trying to.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, my days are pretty much everything that I work on is online. Yeah. But I did have a chance on my to kind of regulate my days a little bit more in the evenings, instead of watching the news or doing anything. I started doing a puzzle.
Of
a very Zen-like space that just sort of takes me away. And I have to say that's been really great for tuning out and tuning into something else. You have no idea. It's quite remarkable. I'm finished with it and I'm looking for more puzzles. So, I think it was probably one of the best recommendations that, someone had. And I know one of my aunts does it. And I was like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Just to do a little puzzle in the evening and, have my dinner, sit, do it later, afterwards, drink a cup of tea, then wind down and go to bed.
So one of the new fan, Jill and Aisha Jill fans, William says, Wordle? Are you doing Wordle?
No, it stresses me out. I don't want any more words in my head.
Wordle makes me very upset. It makes me very angry.
Starting the day with Wordle could be good, right? Because you're up and at 'em. When I'm trying to wind down, I don't want to hear any words. I don't want any talking. Yeah, words. Yeah, I'm with you, Aisha.
But it makes me angry. It's like every time I go to do it, it's like I get mad by the end of it. It's like, this doesn't calm me down. This only
no.
Well, you know what? I've only heard about it. I've not played it, but I keep on hearing about it. So should I take the dive or should I just keep away from it?
You got to try it. See if you can handle it. But I really do believe that it's just, what was the song? No more words. Was it Berlin, or was it who sang that? No more words. There's a time for me which is cut off.
Okay.
I think that's it. But yeah, I mean, Wordle, it's fine. You got to remember, it's probably better for a morning, have your coffee, get going day.
Yeah. And I mean, when your job is working with words, as mine is,
yeah,
it's kind of
both of you do. Mm-hmm. Both of you do. Both of you are prolific, fantastic writers.
It's kind of like, it's like I sit all day, 8 to 10 hours a day, and do the same thing. I don't need this.
I know the other day I was conducting an interview with someone, and for some reason I just ran out of words, and I started sounding like I was 5 or 6 years old. Like, it's so funny because one person was like, "Can you send me a list of all the questions you're going to ask me?" And I'm like, well, we could do an interview that way, or a lot of times I go by talking to somebody to try to capture where they are in real time, real life, because sometimes people, that just captures the moment. But yeah, there's a lot of words out there.
Yeah. Well, some people are saying hello. Black Beauty saying, ladies, Dr. Y, you guys were missed last week. Aisha, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yes.
Jen Myers, always. Hey, Jen, always great to have you here. And Jen also helped you out, Jill. The song was Berlin.
It is Berlin, yes. I really feel that song these days.
Oh, my goodness. So before we get any further, Jill, Rafa going to do it?
I'm hoping, but you got to remember, Rafa's only won, in 2009? That was, I would be happy to see history achieved.
By Rafa.
But my husband and I were having this conversation about Grand Slams. Okay.
We're talking about tennis, by the way, because Jill is our resident, and her and her husband are our resident tennis experts. We have a pipeline into the tennis channel through Jill and her husband. Actually, the other day I was watching the tennis channel and I saw Martina Navratilova commentating. And I
like when she commentates. Well, sadly, Chris Everett is battling cervical cancer at the moment. So our prayers go out for her, even though sometimes Chris, I have said, she gets on my nerves. I would never want anything to happen to her. She's just doing her thing, as we all are. But with the actual, I didn't want to watch, I have hardly been watching this one because I said, with all that rigmarole with Djokovic and all of that, I felt like it sullied a little bit of it. And, the online community has just been so brutal. I even found the crowd to be obnoxious and yelling and real rowdy. And that kind of is just very low par to, I think of tennis a little bit more elevated and heady. I don't want to see a bunch of yobs drinking a bunch of beer and But my husband watched the Medvedev the other night, and he said it's amazing that he can tune it out.
Yeah,
all the yelling. He was getting booed, and he still can, focus. And that's the thing about Medvedev. He's quite amazing.
Yeah.
And yet Rafa's in a really good place at the moment.
Well, the crowd's going to be so behind him, right? So after what Medvedev did with the umpire the other night, he went off on that umpire.
But I don't think that people should boo Medvedev, because actually it makes him stronger.
Yeah, he gets more focused.
Yeah, he gets stronger. So please, people, if you want Rafa to win, don't boo Medvedev, because that's not kryptonite to him. That makes him stronger, and then he'll win. It would be nice to see. It's just like
the Joker.
Rafa
Joker's
win.
the same way.
Yeah,
he gets charged when the people go against him. More.
They feed on it, and it's because they have so much they want to prove. But great tennis this year, though. Tsitsipas and Medvedev tennis, apparently. Many people are saying it's kind of is like, remember 2017 when Federer played Nadal?
Yes.
Pretty.
Well, let's get Aisha back in the conversation. We could start talking women's basketball, but then we never get anything done tonight.
That's true. That's a whole other show.
It's a nervous time because the free agents get to sign. So,
well, folks, we've done our sports channel. So let's get to our news and current event channel. Well, first things first, we almost forgot to chat about this, but the Ukraine. What is what's going on? What do you think's gonna happen? It's
Putin
like
is
getting more
popping off.
intense. Pardon me?
I said Putin is going to pop off with this because one, he's a jerk, but two, I think his goal is to kind of force our hand and force us into some kind of war. The problem I see is what I said the last time we had this conversation was that we had better hope our allies step up. And if Germany's not going to really, what is Germany going to do?
Germany doesn't have much of an army, by
No,
the way.
they don't.
They don't,
And
because they dismantled their army.
Exactly. And they will rely
in fact,
on
a few
us.
countries did do that. Remember, a lot of them did, which isn't requiring people to do the mandatory 1-year service, which is what they used to always have to do. But that doesn't, I don't even know if that exists all the way anymore.
Well,
but in Germany, no. And they don't have, I think their concept was that most wars will be fought from like tables and desks.
Right.
They're not going to use men. And that's the actual thing too. They don't really need to have any men there at the border. I think Putin sells a lot of wolf tickets. He will have no problem serving those guys up. That's for sure. But truly, this war could be fought, wham, bam, a couple drones, and it's done.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It would be politically horrible.
The thing that I see though is that there the egos and things come into we've got to look strong or whatever, and then remember Congress gets to vote on a lot of these things, and we've got a lot of what do they call them, warhounds in Congress, and it's kind of like, be glad we got out of Afghanistan, because we really don't have the bandwidth, the capacity to start engaging in another conflict like that puts strain on our military and strain on our federal budget. That we really look, if we can't afford to feed kids, if we can't afford to provide for daycare, we can't afford to go into any kind of military conflict.
Well, they put aside 700 and so how many billions or millions for it. We can't afford to go to war. That's for sure. And if people keep moaning about this inflation, this imaginary inflation that corporations are perpetrating, which doesn't really exist because we know that it's all the Coke embers, tentacles everywhere, causing all of these supply chain problems. Oh yeah, they'll get a war. But my thing is, I don't think Putin really wants a war, because people who want something, I just think that it really reveals how, word is that he's been losing it, and then he's crazy and on the edge right now. And I think his hatred for America is so strong that he's showing his hand. He's showing it all. It's all being played out. He hates the West so much at this point. It's quite easy to now see how he was capable of running the cyber problems, all of it. It's not even hidden anymore. He hates us more than trying to conceal it anymore. End of story. And unfortunately, I say bring it. My opinion, bring it. Well, let's just see what you got, man.
But and two conversation pieces. First of all, the fact that Putin, it seems that he wants to divide the West, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Germany responds, because
he's trying to get us out of the West, period, out of Europe, period. We can't, no matter what, we have to bomb these back. It's just the way it's going to probably play, and everybody getting ready for their tears. This is sadly war. And it's been a long time coming, because we have some maniacal maniacs in the world. That's the way it is. Everybody wanted to be so, badass about, staving off COVID. use the same brain capacity you use when you try to justify why you didn't get a shot, and you want to be worried about a war.
I mean, the sad
Please.
part,
It's like it's going to happen. If it comes down and it happens, that's what's being played.
But the sad and crazy part is the fact that this country is divided over this issue when it shouldn't be. I mean, the bizarre nature of the people on the right in support of,
they're Russian sympathizers. That's the problem.
Yeah,
and they should be kept out of every confidential, every type of conversation. They shouldn't know classified information. I think right now the Biden administration should already be on top of who should be in and who should be out, because there's a few people who don't fit the mold of they'll just be more treasonous. You want to just take care of this very quickly. So personally, there's too many cooks in this kitchen.
Well, they are the same people.
I'm starting to sound like Joe Biden. I'm starting to have all these old ass fucking old timey comments. Too many cooks in the kitchen.
I have
the pan.
I have a really bad feeling that if there is war, a lot of people are going to die.
Oh yeah.
In Ukraine. Now, I've been listening to some news reports, and they're very defiant and all that. But with 100,000 troops at the border, and basically, and I'm hearing news reports that Russia's like sort of cyber attacking different Ukraine outlets, etc., like that. I can't. If this happens, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be
war
pretty.
Never is, But what are we supposed to do? Give him it? I mean, what can we do?
Well, Black Beauty says here, and she was reading my alleged mind. I was going to bring this up. Let's not forget, Germany gets almost 70% of their gas from Russia's pipeline as well. Ukraine does it seem to anyone else? East-West doesn't seem to be very concerned about. Since the East-West doesn't seem very concerned about Putin.
I don't think so. There's other ways to get oil to them. It could really open that up as well. There's other ways for America and even Australia to circumvent that. Remember, we do have that kind of that happened, remember. So I don't know how they can circumvent it, but this is a situation of we're being called out, and you sometimes got to show up.
And the strange part about it is that we are being called out, but even you would think that taking more of a lead on this would be Germany because of the amount of fuel that they do get from Germany, that they do buy from Germany. They have a bigger vested interest in that the fuel, it basically fuels their lives, their economy, everything. And so why aren't more of our so-called allies being more vocal about this? That is the question that I have. Because if we go this alone, it's going to be, I mean, even just without the statements of support, it's going to be really, really bad, unfortunately, for this administration.
But Germany did mention about the pipeline. They did bring up warnings to Russia as UN meeting was called. They are standing up. They haven't been like, they still have an agreement with the rest of their allies. So that it does put them in a sticky wicky. But at the end of the day, if anything, our base will be back over there. Did we even actually leave Germany? Were we able to leave or no? Remember when Trump pulled us out? We were there for a reason. And, all that we need is to stall and get that back together. I don't know if we ever really left. I mean, because Latvia now, but you've got to remember Latvia is involved blasting Germany because they actually are having a relationship with Russia and China, but everybody is, Latvia's, a fine one to talk to. You never know where they're standing. They're like never forget how anti-Semitic they were. And many still are. So you have so many things morally. Yeah, Latvia wanted to talk about morals, but there's so many things morally going on, period, with all of them. But they're also reliant on each other for trade. All of
Yeah.
them.
The wonder is how this is going to look
Mm-hmm.
to the nation as we go into a midterm election, because people will tend to blame. They'll blame one side or the other on this issue. It's like, oh, your support or your,
I mean, the really serious thing is actually Europe needs our support. I mean, Donald Trump did come out and say that it was a European problem. And on many, many levels, it is. It really is. But the truth is, it is their problem. But we are the allies saying we're going to be there.
And that's not the way it's being communicated to the American people, unfortunately.
Well, they should just use common sense. That's how it's kind of playing, because that's what I think. It's just common sense.
But here's my question. If 45 was still in office, what do you think would happen with the Ukraine situation?
He wouldn't do one thing.
We wouldn't do anything, and we probably wouldn't have gotten this far.
He would have let them take Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they would take whatever else they wanted.
Right. There would be no conflict.
There would not be a Germany. There would not, all of it would be gone.
Well, also
he would have let that happen.
Well, also remember the whole thing, he got impeached over Ukraine in his communications with Ukraine. So that would have a big part to play in him being like, yeah, take over Ukraine because dude ratted me out.
So then let me ask a further conversation piece. Why should Americans, or shouldn't Americans, be concerned about what goes on with Ukraine and what potentially could happen with Ukraine when it comes to Russia?
Well, it's like what I said the last show that we had was that if you let him take an inch, he'll take the whole mile, right? And so if you keep letting Putin, once he gets into Ukraine, getting into parts of Europe are much easier. And this is basically the same kind of thing that Adolf Hitler did when he was trying and succeeding basically at taking over Europe and the Ukraine. So it's one of those things where if that should happen, we would be involved anyway, because those are our allies.
But don't forget, everybody still thinks that there's a couple of layers going on. You have the GDR, which they think that Russia really wants to bring back in Germany, that they want all that stuff the way it was. And truth be told, if we look at how fanatical and crazy that Putin is and how he's pined over a wrong that was done to Russia for so long, that's not inconceivable. So Germany has to be incredibly careful if they don't want to give weapons to Kiev or whoever else, because let's also not forget that not every Ukrainian in the government that they have is cool. Right. They're as corrupt as can be too. So, sometimes they've played both hands against the middle, and they have, and it's really tricky. This is a very tricky situation. And unfortunately, there are a few things going on, and there should be some private conversations happening. Yeah. That the public probably should not know about.
So one other thing, though, before we get to the comment, we should also be concerned because and we have a lot of flat earther people in our country because we have such poor education. The earth is still round.
Right.
And contrary to what some people may understand about geography, you have Russia, you have this little strip of water, and you have the American border. And if he can move, I guess in his direction, if he could move west,
yes,
he could easily move east and go right into Alaska, which then it becomes Alaska and Canada, Alaska, which is the US, and Canada's problem at that point. And so if he's allowed to go west, don't think that he won't try to go east.
He won't go west.
Okay. Well, Black Beauty says, if we're not careful, I have a concern that this could be history repeating itself, such as Napoleon did when his army became trapped by the Russian winter terrain. Do Americans, and both of you live in America, do they even care about this one?
Not really.
No,
Not really.
no.
Should they?
They should, but
Yeah.
Americans,
Don't really
we've
care about
already.
anything.
Should we go into how the rest of the world really thinks that most Americans are? I mean, we've now since realized that the reason that the Holocaust and certain things happened for so very long is that old wonderful, warm feeling of Americans paying attention and caring and giving a damn about what's going on abroad. That seems to not be a quality that exists in this country.
Well, you got a lot of Americans who don't even care about our own democracy being stolen and torn apart and ripped to shreds. So get them to care about something outside of their lives? What?
I mean, if they came through Alaska, it would be very interesting. If he did come through Alaska, at least we'd know he was, balls out and actually, doing something like different. But it's not advantageous.
Is that he had a better chance of that with the last president than this president.
Totally.
The last president would have been like, come on in.
Yeah.
So do you see the Congress, if approving troops and things like that in this?
This will not be bipartisan. I'm sorry. The Democrats would be, let's do this, except for Manchin and Sinema. And then the Republicans and the Democrats in name only will go along and be like, no, we're not doing this, because they want Joe Biden to fail.
Jeez. Wow. Yeah,
I mean, we're going to talk about the Supreme Court pick in a little bit. And even behind that, they're already like, we're not
the reasons why Germany wouldn't ass itself out. Because why would you? Would you do it? If you know that your ally really wouldn't be your ally? I mean, honestly, let's just be honest. Everybody's selling wolf tickets back and forth, and you're relying on one country, and you're like going, damn, I can't really trust that America's Congress and Senate would even make it where you'd have my back. So hell no. So Kiev can cry all at once. It's just not that party yet. And they need to learn how to freaking teach their people how to fight. I'm sorry. This has been going on a long ass time. Like, please.
You would think that they would have taken the last 4 years to, you'd think they would have taken the last 4 years to, that they couldn't really rely on America because of the president that we have.
I agree. It's like, please take care of your own home. Get your stuff together. We're sending you all these things. You have all these weapons. Y'all need to learn how to shoot them. Damn.
Right.
I mean, it's actually now it's kind of like ridiculous.
And then we got to fight the war too.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, what the hell are you guys doing? It's a sad situation, but you can't say you've been new. We've been new too. It's just, we've been new. Get your gear.
Mm-hmm. So
ain't nobody got time for all this mess. Y'all needed to be training folks even right now.
So let's ask, by the next live conversation, will Putin go in?
No.
Okay.
No. He'll probably do it on some like weird election day, or, it'll be Valentine's. It'll be something. It'll be something very self-serving for them.
It would be something that would be news-making.
A trial something with Donald Trump is about whatever.
He is his kids as Trump. So it'll have to be something that'll be monumental. It would be news cycle.
Has 45 spoken about this recently? I'd love to get
his he said it's a European problem.
Okay. All right.
And he's probably saying it now as we speak, considering he's holding a rally with idiots.
Okay. Black Beauty says no, most Americans see getting involved in Putin's trap is just that. Aisha, to me, has a good point that Russia will go east, thus catch us flat-footed and advancing on Alaska.
Nah, they'll get blown to bits.
We'll
Doesn't
see.
mean they won't try.
True, but it won't be pretty. That won't be pretty.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
For anybody. For anybody.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah,
we're talking about egos here and where the coolest heads prevail on this level, I would say the only one who has the cool head is Biden. Putin and the Ukrainians, no, but they don't have cool heads. Putin is just so, he's one of those. We'll all go down in the damn ship. You know what I'm saying? He's at that point. Because after a while, all these men, I mean, let's look at all these rich men. What else do they have? They've got all the money. They get all the young girls. They can even traffic little kids to themselves. They can do anything they want. And they've been able to do the most heinous crap in the world. So they're still very unhappy and miserable human beings, all of them. They go to the moon, they blow up there. They're just unhappy. They are. They're miserable people. What more? Oh, power. They need power. It's no different than watching people play with a bunch of G.I. Joe dolls. These men are not evolved men, and taking everybody down, they don't care because they don't really have anything to live for anyway that means anything. What, more money? What are you going to eat money? I said to somebody who was like trying to praise Elon Musk, I was like, are you kidding? I mean, he's gross. And everybody who looks at him just thinks of a big mountain of cash. And that'd be the only reason you'd have sex with it, is you'd pretend that you were screwing a mountain of money. Sorry.
We are moving on to our next conversation after that one. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the U.S. Supreme Court. The White House confirms that J. Michelle Childs is among multiple individuals under consideration for Supreme Court nomination. Ladies, your thoughts?
I don't know much about her. Enlighten me.
Well, if you don't know much about J. Michelle Childs, right now she is a federal court judge in South Carolina. She's Jim Clyburn's endorsed choice. She's supposed to be confirmed to the actual federal court in DC, I believe in the next week or two. And she's got a long, she's 55 years old. She's got a long career doing this. She's the South Carolina favorite. And one of the reasons that Clyburn's endorsing her too is that he spoke to both Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham about her.
Mm.
And
but did she?
It seems like she got some kind of commitment from them. They approved. They voted for her for the job that she has.
Tim Coon Scott's.
Yeah.
Is that who we're? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah,
you didn't.
Clyburn was very.
You haven't said anything.
Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, Graham.
Well, Clyburn said he was very careful in doing this. He said he wouldn't have said and endorsed had he not had those conversations. So.
Oh wow! I'm so glad you're on top of this, Aisha. Lordy. Yeah, Jim Clyburn was about to lose his, I don't know what. He every day about these voting rights and him and Biden after he delivered.
On mute. I still haven't got back up yet.
My daughter and I have this thing between us that we joke about all the time. But that wasn't Jim Clyburn losing his mind. That was Jim Clyburn just being happy. That's his happy face and his happy voice.
Because I thought he was like, listen, I delivered all these black folks to you, like John the Baptist, like they delivered John the Baptist.
Jim Clyburn sounds the same when he's happy.
You better get that voters' rights together.
When Jim Clyburn is happy, he sounds the exact same. It will crack you up. If you see him when he's happy, he sounds the exact same. He's yelling at you. He always looks like a disappointed father, even when he's happy.
That makes sense then. I got it. Because he was not pleased.
He was on the other night telling Lawrence, this nomination came because my three daughters got but he was smiling.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Scott.
I can't. I haven't stopped. I can't. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Well, I
Oh
hope
my,
she gets in. We got to deal with
But that's
everybody
let me tell you
else.
something. I
yeah,
actually
but
had to explain that
it's
to my
good. It's
mother.
good. Well, at least Biden will keep one promise,
Yeah,
right?
he has to.
Oh,
He
he has.
better.
Because the thing is that look at it this way: if he doesn't, I know they're afraid of they're still afraid of the midterms. And for Black women to be like, I'm not showing up, that will hurt across the board.
No, that will devastate. That
Yeah.
won't hurt. That will devastate the Democratic Party.
Right.
That will
It's like I was saying to some people are getting really upset, and we're definitely airing our dirty laundry in public about the Dems. And I think a lot of it should be kept a little bit on the DL. I mean, we can arouse more commitment from other people in our groups and that are not voting. And we need to really have those conversations with them because they're the ones who are letting us down. They're letting us down by not showing up to vote. End of story. It's the masses. After a while, your party can only do so much that you give them the weapon. It's like we put them in the position, and then we hand them like a Q-tip and go, now go fix everything. Damn it! It's like we've got to change those things, and we have to really get it together because this is just wrong, and we have to really stop airing our stuff out there. Someone was talking about the Democrats. They're upset because Joe Biden is still doing some of the ICE raids are still going on and picking up illegals. And then there's this big discussion inside our whole groups, which is right now, I don't have the bandwidth. I'm letting the states deal with the immigration problems. I also don't have the bandwidth for it as that being the major thing that should supersede voters' rights. Sorry, guys. It's like, what have you all done for me lately? I was there to help get folks from across the border, and let's add money. Let me send money to this person, that person. Every single senator who's a Dem, their number one agenda should be voters' rights. Every single damn one of them, and put the illegals and stuff on the back burner for a freaking moment. That goes for the agencies as well, because here's the deal. I can't keep getting with people that we get them over here and we have agencies that help bring them here, and then they go out and they vote Republican. So y'all need to square that up before I'm going to devote my time to it anymore. I'm not interested in that. Y'all got to get that really together, because that gets no commitment from me, because it's a waste of my damn time and money. We can barely take care of our own people here. And I'm not interested in immigration at the moment. I am interested in voters' rights, and I'm interested in us really focusing on that, because this was a promise, and they should have a hierarchy. And that was very high on the list. So let's not get it twisted and start bringing in other people's things, because they do that in the States, and get their money and their this and their that. That ain't it. The Republicans will always be throwing up the immigration thing. And I don't think we need to jump on that battleground. Personally, shut it down and don't even talk about it. Not going to talk about that right now. We want our voters' rights.
Two things. The first
might get more people voting for Dems. Sorry.
The first in agreeing with Jill on this point. I mean, I'm at the point where Democrats need to try something new. If things aren't working, you know what? If I was Chuck Schumer right now, I would be like, I'm going to let Republicans put their stuff out, put their bills on the docket.
Absolutely.
We're going to vote on their bills. Yep. Because they need to be cut down and shown that, guess what? We can obstruct too. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. Or we'll vote.
Absolutely. You're
because
100%
remember,
right.
And we have to corral everybody and vote in unison so that we get the Kamala Harris tiebreaker, and would do that 1 to 3 times to let them see that, they're blocking us. Wait a second. So and do that until we get people moving over on voting rights.
She's right, because
that should be the single focus.
It's more of a concern that he hasn't done that, which makes me go, I need to see the party in totality here. I need
Yeah.
to see the solidarity, and the fact that he doesn't bring their bills up makes me think that he hasn't whipped them, and they're not being whipped hard enough. Then we need to know, we've got to figure out how to get different people in line, because then Chuck Schumer is protecting himself clearly, because we need to see how you're doing your job to make sure we have a strategy. And if you can't do that, man, please go back to selling shoes.
And he needs to let Dick Durbin do his job. Dick Durbin's job in the Senate is to whip these votes. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I have a feeling that Chuck Schumer keeps jumping in front of it.
I think you're right.
How do you do tip of the hat kind of old grandpa thing?
Ain't nobody checking for him. So they laugh at him.
Yeah. So I think that he needs to move aside and let Dick Durbin do his job. The same way Nancy pulls aside and lets Jim Clyburn do the damn thing when it comes to whipping the caucus, because notice they have no problems whipping that caucus
at all.
Okay. So move aside, and let Dick Durbin do the thing. That's the first thing. The second thing that has irritated me, and this is about us airing our dirty laundry, are the number of Democrats who are like, oh, well, maybe, he shouldn't have said that he would do this. You know that he could not have won South Carolina.
I know.
Had he not made that promise. Jim Clyburn told the story a couple days ago. He said, I had to get to him backstage and get in front. He told the story. Simone Sanders confirmed it on Rachel Maddow that this is what happened, because his people, Biden's people, were telling him not to do it there because it would look like pandering to have a separate conference and do it. And Jim Clyburn said, no, you're in South Carolina. The vote is in 4 days. You got to do it tonight. Do it tonight. And he went with his gut and he did it. Okay. Had he not done that, he would have lost. He needs to keep that promise. And Democrats who are standing in the way of this Black female who will be highly qualified candidate, they need to be careful about their voters. They should be scared, because that is enough to piss some people off. And there are a lot more younger people who will be voting this time around. They said this would be the biggest amount of people who are new voters.
I think so.
Since ever. And they're not blue dog Democrats. They're not moderates. And that's what the Republican Party is afraid of. That's also what they're afraid of with this pick, is that it moves them further away from doing away with Roe versus Wade. That's another reason. As soon as Breyer announced, the next day you had states trying to speed through their abortion laws because they're worried that this Black woman on this court will be the end of their attempt to get rid of Roe v. Wade. So, Democrats need to let this happen.
They hold all these, promises like, a bride on the wedding day or something. The reality is it's ridiculous. Let's not forget that even in the war, like FDR for many, many years prior kept saying, we're not going to get involved. I don't want people to go to blah, blah, blah. And he did, of course, it just, December, Pearl Harbor happened and all those things. So, it's a lot for everybody to keep on. And then he promised this, and then he promised that. It's like, I'll get to the promises. I mean, did these people raise children? I'd be like, yeah, I know I promised, but it isn't in the budget at the moment. And go take your school and don't talk to me today. It's like some nagging little kid. We want the voting rights squared up. We want more of you. You know, there's nothing wrong. I'm cool if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I can't do this. This is what's really happening. And here's my problem. I'm not going to shoot you down just because you couldn't get all those, peckerwoods together to over there and vote on voter rights. We know what's happening. And if you see that that's what's happening, then in the world here, they need to get their PR machines moving and exposing every single person who's been voting against it. And that includes even, some of the ones who are up north. That one up in Maine, who the one who talks, so what is her name? Susan, whatever. You've got to start exposing these people
Susan
slowly but surely.
Yeah.
And he's got to call them out. It's better when he calls them out. Mm-hmm. I can't do this because of Joe Manchin. Yeah. He's holding it up. And the story. I respect you when you lay it out for me, but don't play games. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kirsten Sinema, they didn't like it. They're like, oh, no, that's dirty. The dirty laundry is the part where everybody else starts bringing in things like, and then there's immigration, and then there's the LGBTQ. We don't have time for everybody at the time, because here's the thing. If everybody in the LGBTQ gave a about our voting rights as Black people, we actually might have it together. If they stop giving money to some of their people that have provided them security, this is all in effort. And it constitutes a lot of sacrifice for a lot of people. So give it up once or twice, because we've had your back. The question is, what have you all done for us lately? Posting something for Black Lives Matter just on your Instagram ain't cutting it. That ain't it, Chief.
She said, what have you done for us lately? Janet Jackson documentaries on behind you.
Yeah, I was just, it was a good reference.
But it's the truth,
haven't seen it yet. I hear it's good though.
Yeah, it is good. But here's the thing. This is what Joe Biden cannot do. He cannot make this appointment and not continue the fight for voting rights and say, oh, well, this is my concession. No, you cannot do that, one. And two, you can't fail on both, because it really will impact how people come out to vote for you and how a reliable base comes out to vote for you, because you didn't do voting rights and then you caved in because the Republican Party said they're not going to vote for this.
That's not cool.
He can't do that. He can't do that.
I agree.
And I think he knows that, because he's committed to it and says he's committed to it, but then he also can't just do that.
He's got to pull those grape nuts out from under his armpit, because we need him to,
period.
You're right. So how do we get that happen?
He can't just do it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Jill is saying, Black Beauty is saying, Jill, right on. A hi from us, person we haven't heard from a while. Christy White says, hello, Dr. Vibe. Hi, lady. Miss you. So good to see you, Christy. Actually, I was hosting a conversation that she was a panelist on this morning about safety in schools. School
nice.
Safety. It was a very good conversation. So I'll share it with both of you offline.
I wish you'd have sent me an alert.
I should have sent you a DM, but
to my text. A text.
Yeah, but Jill, it would have been 6:00 in the morning your time. So I don't know if we're gonna wake you up at 6:00 on a Saturday. True. No. The replay will suffice. Okay. Replay will suffice. So let's continue on conversation wise. The January 6th panel subpoenas figures and scheme backing fake 45 electors. I never thought they'd get there.
Yeah, the way that they've kind of announced it is almost like the DOJ is investigating too. Finally, right? Merrick Garland is like showing up. But here's the thing that I still wonder about this: the panel's moving. The panel's moving.
That is no. You know what? Going forward, we're going to say Jill's boy.
Yeah,
we're gonna Jill's boy.
My boy.
Your boy.
I'd have to whip him in shape.
Yes, but I mean, it seems like he has.
Give me a
he's
couple
taken-
hours. He'll be
Look,
fine.
it seems like he's taken one less sleeping pill for the day, and like finally woke up.
It's true. Actually,
Your
you might be
boy.
right.
Your
Damn.
boy.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
But I kind of wonder, like, I know that they're on a fact-finding mission and their goal is to deliver this report. And now they're saying they're talking about criminal charges. But are they going to do it in time? Because the thing of it is that there is still that fear of the Congress changing hands in 2023. And are they going to do what they need to do in enough time? When are they going to do it? Merrick Garland, just coming out of his coma, is starting to do something, but will he do it in enough time? And at the end of the day, a report is not going to change the fact that we still have a serious problem, and that it's not going to change. Okay, so what? So we know everything, right?
Right.
Then what? What's the action steps? These people did this to the country. Do you just round them all up and put them in jail? I mean, which you would think at that point to be like arrest. But this same panel still hasn't put pressure on the DOJ to even do the contempt charges with Mark Meadows.
Yeah, I mean, I just, like I said, I even forgot that they were still doing it.
And that tells you something, Jill. You're as politically aware as both you are. For you to say that, what do most Americans? Most
wasn't even paying. I just totally forgot about it until you guys put it up here. It's been so lackluster and so disappointing and embarrassing globally to see them dragging along this dead carcass of a story that nobody cares about enough to have done anything expeditiously or quickly. It's really sad to see that they are literally going to Weekend at Bernie's us with this. It's going to only be kept alive by just the people that really want to keep propping it up, because the Republicans don't care, and there's no enforcement going on. These people are going to jail. They're getting interviews in jail. They're getting book deals in jail. I've seen more book deals coming out of their, how to take something lemons and make it into lemonade for these people going to jail. I mean, now they all want to go because they're, like, okay, I'll do my 10 months. I'm going to have a book deal out in a minute. This is where it is. This is the saddest part of what, the free market has done in this country. And it's really gross. It's like people here have not only any dignity, they're just their whole lives away. Everybody's something. And it's kind of gross now. It's like, don't stall me with this stuff. You guys get paid how much money? How much money are these senators and these DOJ people getting paid?
No, the better fact is how much of your money,
our money. But the thing is, and you can't put these people in jail quicker, and we can't have these hearings. I'm not buying it, and I'm not impressed. Jill, and I think it actually looks horrible to the rest of the world and to most of us.
But the system's in place that people can stall, so they can't do
it. But you know what? Yes, the system is so messed up that even when on my property, if somebody drops a bag, I am the one who has to pay for that, as opposed to, this is how it's all. That's $100 fine for me. They have so many things that are wrong in this country, state-wise, civil-wise, all of it. I can't see anybody putting Humpty Dumpty back together again, because America is Humpty Dumpty.
I mean, here's the other
and it
thing.
Really looks like all the king's horses and all the king's men actually didn't even show up. I don't know what idiots. We've got the Oompa Loompas from the chocolate factory who showed up to put this together. This is ridiculous. It's embarrassing. They're dragging this out like, we're watching Dragnet or Adam 12. It's so back in the day, old fashioned. It's like there's technology that's better than that. It's like this is how I feel. When I was little, I used to watch Gilligan's Island, and the professor was supposed to be so brilliant. He couldn't figure out how to fix a freaking hole in the boat. I mean, this is what I'm saying with our government. They are the professor, and the rest of us are stuck on Gilligan's Island.
Here's the thing. They know what they know. They know a whole lot more than the rest of us know. So, given that you know what you know, why don't we know what you know yet? Because here's the thing. They have information because of the subpoenas that they've been putting through. But at the same time, they're doing it all in a silo, like it's secret. If you really were real, if there's nothing you could do right now at this very moment, like to arrest people or whatever, until a report's delivered or something, at least have these on prime time. People should be seeing this.
I agree.
We should be able to see these people say these things. Instead, you're giving us a transcript which doesn't have the same effect unless people actually read it. Put it on prime time. Stream it on YouTube. Get it on Twitter Spaces. Put it where everybody can see it, right?
Right.
So that these people can say and testify to these things. It means nothing to most people that they subpoenaed Trump's deputy press secretary, who has agreed to go and testify in front of them. Right. It means nothing if we can't see it. And I think that's the frustrating part. We're not getting satisfaction in people going to prison, but this is the closest that we can get to feeling like you're doing something. Let us see. And that to me is so frustrating.
Right.
I don't want to have to hear about what you did at 10 o'clock from Rachel Maddow at 9 o'clock. And hope that somebody reports it correctly.
So Black
and
Beauty
why are these Russians showing up here typing thief? Who's the thief is what I want to know.
So Black Beauty saying, my goodness, if this mess with Russia and Ukraine goes live, then do we just go and shut down regarding voting rights January 6th and bringing these folks to trial regarding potential trials?
No, but that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
No, we shouldn't in theory. But that's what they're going to do.
You know why a lot of this is really playing out in such a long-winded way. You have to remember that before COVID, there were a lot more happenings going on in DC. There were parties, there were hookers, there was always this movement, there was parties, there were events, there were run-ins, there was a lot of activity. So what happened is once all of that stopped and they're not sitting at dinner parties anymore, and that stopped, you now just have a bunch of people sitting behind, doing more dirty work online and on their Zooms or having these conversations. You're not really seeing like an accidental, look, guess who I saw at lunch together, blah, 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 those kind of things. You're not seeing all that anymore. And that's that is something that happened because those kind of encounters can make things change a lot for people and their lives. It just does. Yeah. But COVID kind of created a very weird lack of transparency and more deception.
Well, you know what COVID also did? It revealed to us how many of these people are just not good at their jobs. They're just not qualified. These are the same people that are going to sit there and determine whether or not the next justice of the Supreme Court is qualified. Yet, a good majority of them are not qualified to do the job that they have. And that's one thing that I think COVID has revealed because you're like, well, why aren't you doing this and why aren't you doing that? When you know all the other activities to be done in DC are on kibosh because of COVID. And then you realize it's like, wow, how little work a lot of these people put in, at least with, a 3 martini lunch and
Right.
in a meeting, somewhere,
And knowing
Adams,
somebody
a
didn't get
meeting
their
in Adams,
cabana.
right? Like a
Yeah.
meeting on Adams Morgan or what, that you could actually talk to someone and really get into their ear about this and that. It's like even
The
the
school their
lobbyists
grandchild wants to go to. Oh, that's right. Tucker Carlson already contacted Hunter about his stupid kids getting into school.
I'm sure even the lobbyists don't even know what to do
Tucker
anymore.
Carlson contacted a quote unquote pedophile to help his kids get into school. Gee, Tucker, what else did you promise your kids to pedos for? What kind of dad are you? You suckers.
But
These people are such hypocrites and liars about each other. And that's been DC, and that's been America. And everybody seems to think that everything is just like that TV show with what's her face? Olivia Pope.
Yeah. Think about it though. To be honest, a lot of it is.
A lot of it is.
Because a lot of the deals and things like that are made off the they're made like really off the beltway. They're made, in and around DC at social events and things like that. And those situations are so important because it allows people, when they're in those social environments, their guard is down. So you will see Republicans and Democrats having conversations together because they're, basically partying together.
They have to, exactly.
Schmoozing together, and dining together and things like that, and making deals that they haven't been able to do. Because, Congress passes a lot of things that the American people aren't aware of. We might hear about 2 or 3 big bills during the course of a cycle, but they've done some 600
all the time.
Plus.
Yeah,
600
exactly.
plus
all the time.
All the time.
Agreed.
And so if you look at a congressional schedule on what they actually vote for, you'd actually see that. But most people don't. And so you're only thinking that they're doing 4 or 5 bills per whatever. But guess what? They're actually passing things, and they're doing the work. And a lot of those things get passed that get passed are actually passed on a bipartisan level, but people don't really see those things. We see the big ticket things. So honestly, they haven't been able to do a lot of that.
Well, I really wish somebody ran B613. If there was a B613 with a man named Rowan, a black man running this business, that would flip them all out. And let me tell you something. That January 6th commission would have been wrapped up too sweet. It'd been done. We'd have had them all.
That we have.
So I can
shadow government.
There is a Rowan somewhere. I'm like, dude, I mean, we kind of project that onto these DOJ people, and then you end up with Rip Van Winkle.
Yeah. And another thing about this, about January 6th, that I want people to really think about. I want you to think of it in a different way. Okay. People are constantly saying, well, they almost succeeded. I told my daughter this the other day. I said, in actuality, they did succeed, because their goal was to stop the certification of the votes. Well, guess what they did? They did stop it. They had to go undercover, stop
as electors. I mean, how do you do that?
They actually did do it. They weren't able to
pull it
certify
off.
The thing for Trump, but they did stop the certification. Ideally, the mob of people actually did their part of the whole entire scheme. Their part was to stop it. They didn't have a set time on how long they should stop it. They were just supposed to stop it, right? Because Trump said it, and stop what they're doing. And so the part of it that failed were all the other little moving parts. The more you read about this stuff and you learn about it, you learn that they had like 7 to 8 plans that were to go off simultaneously. Each person had a plot that they were invested in and were supposed to do it. And some people just did not do their part effectively to take over completely. But that crowd did their part. And the next time, and there will be a next time because we haven't dealt with the issue, the next time, all the other pieces are going to come together. And we should be very scared.
All right, let's move on this one, and let's go to our next conversation topic. To Kill a Mockingbird, who'll be removed from 9th grade reading list in Mukilteo, and it's a city in I think Seattle area, I believe. Yes, a Seattle school. So they're banning the book To Kill a Mockingbird.
From 9th grade, that to me is bizarre because maybe, and it might just be where we're located, but I read To Kill a Mockingbird in 6th grade.
Me too. I read it when I was
grade
a lot
is
younger.
really late to be reading it.
I know. I mean, I don't know how they're teaching. I mean, gee.
I mean, my gosh, you all getting the equivalent of a 6th grade education in 9th.
Why are they banning books? You know, Stephen King actually posted something today. Stephen King was telling kids to go out and get books and run. Like, this is like one of the worst things that could happen. I mean, look, what can I say? You know, they don't read anyway. They'll see the movie.
Well, if they have
Hollywood should do a remake. I mean, it's you know, and it's a shame. It's just America. I mean, it's not anything surprising. We've seen those moms against reading, moms against
it hurt
vaccines.
The White Citizen Council's feelings of those books.
Yeah, their feelings are hurt. All I'm saying is that it doesn't matter how much they want to ban. There's TikTok, there's all this stuff that's going on. And all they're doing is creating a real chasm for their kids to fall into where, you know, they're not going to be, I don't know. I just don't think it's going to fare well. I just don't.
They're banning books. They're banning how history is taught in our schools. They're like carving out a very narrow piece of intellectual information for their children. And when you think about this, it's part of a larger plan. The more illiterate people are, the dumber they are, the less they know about things in the past, the more you can control them. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you have a group of people who were involved in a lot of those parts of history that are still alive, and they don't want future generations knowing what they did. They don't want they don't want to have to look at their grandchildren and children and be like, oh yeah, you know, I was against this. I was one of those.
Yeah, people. But Aisha, one thing I think people should do now is name them.
Yeah.
I want to look at a 1965 with the hose and the civil rights and people beating on throwing things at Ruby Bridges. I want you to tell me, who are those people today? Let's out them. Let's just out them.
That's not true. I was actually telling my daughter a story about Elizabeth Eckford, who was one of the Little Rock Nine to integrate the Central High School in Little Rock in 1957. And the woman who's famous, the picture is famous.
There was a TV show
screaming.
Yes.
And, there's a book that they wrote together. But then there's also this, the reason that they became friends and then could no longer be friends was because you can't get past that part of history. And she's been named. And the thing of it is, and when you name those people, they have to explain to their grandchildren. She has to explain to her children and her grandchildren.
They need to explain it to me.
Yeah.
They need to explain it to us.
Yeah.
I just don't see, if you're so proud and you stand by what you said, then why are you ashamed and you want to hide it? I don't understand that.
But you know,
So personally, I think they should be outed for what they did.
well, you know, critical thinking though is not supposed to be comfortable.
Right.
The whole process isn't supposed to be comfortable.
True.
You know, becoming an open-minded person is not comfortable. But you
Right.
know, it's even more uncomfortable than all that is racism. Yeah, that's the part of me. It's like if you don't have to physically deal with it every freaking day, why are you complaining?
But they want the
Because you spent
laws
an hour.
to reflect, so
Mhm.
they don't have to say it, that it's
Yeah.
already set up for them
Yeah.
to receive the favoritism, the privilege. They want the laws to reflect that they're favored, and they're okay with that. They're not. They don't care about Black people's discomfort.
And let's put this very plainly. The only people who are offended are, and instead of saying, oh, there are mothers or this and that people, no, they're white people. They are white people who are offended because
Yeah.
you don't, I mean, are offended about every other kind of person that there is, whether
Right.
it be Black, Latino, Middle Eastern, Native American, Asian,
Middle Eastern
LGBTQ,
are
anything.
white. Middle Eastern people are considered white, and so are Asians in America. Just so you know, they are not people of color. They are not marked down that way. And
Yeah,
you know,
but
the
they are
only
but they are
people,
banning their books, is what I mean.
well, you know, they can do that. Then they have to figure it out. The other thing is that their natives have been totally ripped apart, their families, their everything here, and Black people. And that's it. Everybody else came who decided to willingly come here and be oppressed. That's very different than people who were already here and other people who were brought here. I hate to make those differences here, but if you knew that the country was racist and had people picking cotton, why the hell would you cross the border to come?
Good
But
point.
the books that they're banning, though, are just they're banning The Bluest Eye. Well, you know what? Black girls need to read that. They're banning the Lorax of all things.
Oh,
You know,
gosh.
of all things.
You're kidding
They're
me.
banning the Lorax. I mean, just the things that they're banning. It's like pretty soon there won't be any books if we just allow them. The list is like 800 books being banned by school districts across.
But you're so, you know, it's what's so interesting is that you're speaking about the survivors in an oppressed group of people who will survive and will continue are the ones who still hand down their culture to one another. We, the natives, despite everything that's been done to eradicate them, they have a rich culture that will continually be handed down, passed down, and their children will always be able to have an identity of a core of solid people of where they originated from. Even Black people, the more they've understood and the more we collect about living and how we got here, all of these things are really important. As for white people, I don't know what they're going to have culturally, because what they've all done. You had the Italians, you had the Irish, you had the Germans, all of them came here and they all wanted to assimilate so desperately that even if they go back to Europe, nobody in Europe ever looks at somebody and goes, oh, you're German. When a dumb white person is like from here going, I'm German, and Germans are like, okay, yeah, okay, right. All right, bye. You know, like how many generations of German? No, you're American. And even though that's culturally, you could say your origin, okay, Germany, whatever, but it's still different because it's like they smell different. You smell different when you show up in places like that. I'm Italian. No, you do your pasta way different. You have always used way too much sauce, and it's really more about the pasta than it is about in America. It's always the freaking sauce, right? But it's really weird. There's a cultural bankruptcy here that happens. But what seems to be instilled and why they're all still mad, you know, one Oktoberfest a year doesn't mean you're German. Okay. One Italian little festival in New York that they got so tired of the Italians that they now give them half a block to walk in the San Gennaro festival. It used to be like a whole community. Now it's like literally 1 block on Mott Street. So let's just be really honest here. We're looking at a really crazy time that they want to take things away, but solid people will pass things down. Even Jewish families, they pass things to their children. You pass down. And it just seems that these, white supremacists don't have anything to pass down other than hatred. And let's go burn down somebody's house, and let's go put a cross up, and let's go screw somebody over. Let's do that. That's what they do when they want to get together. Is that what I'm seeing every day? Let's go take over the White House. Wow.
All right.
And I think we should paint the White House black.
All right. There we go.
I think it should be a different color.
Black people built it.
There you go.
I just think that's what George Clinton had a song called "Paint the White House Black."
House Black. I was gonna bring that up. Christy White is absolutely agreeing with what you are both saying on this one. Black Beauty is saying, I don't think these ratchet book banners will be successfully in their efforts to ban history any more than we can stop ourselves from telling the horror stories of oppression and racism.
Exactly.
What are they going to? It's like, what are you going to do next? Say that the Library of Congress should be banned because the Library of Congress has all of these.
You never know.
Never know. They'd be burning. They like to burn up, so they'll all like have a powwow. Not even a powwow. That's the wrong word. They will have let's go in and burn up the library. That's just,
I wouldn't put it past. Give an inch and they'll take 2 miles, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, Jill, Mark that we mentioned that here. Mark that. I think that there could be something with that. There could definitely be something with that.
Like the Library of Congress and what's the other one? Oh my gosh, God forbid you let them know that tax dollars fund the African American history and
they better not, because I'm going to tell you something. They better not, because they're starting to push it to the limit. Already. We're dealing with everybody asking about Ukraine's war. They need to deal with what's happening here. African Americans were buying guns in droves. It's a very, very high rate. And ain't nobody going to be checking and playing this next time if they want a civil war.
All right.
I hate to say it, but the data is proving that it ain't going to be like, mamsy pamsy, let me move over and step aside for you. This is really, really crazy, but there's always a tipping point, as Malcolm Gladwell has written about many times. And it's really tricky because you don't really know what that one tipping point could be. It could be somebody, just falling off a bridge. We don't know. It's always something. George Floyd was a tipping point, and it was huge.
Cinema Canella says, I'm late, but I'm here. Good. Also, too, Blu-ray, I'm late too. Hey, everybody. Well, we make room for you. No worries. Last conversation piece. I'm sure this will be interesting to everybody. Spotify lost more than $2 billion in market value after Neil Young pulled his music over Joe Rogan's podcast.
And now it's getting close to 4 billion.
4 billion, right?
And Joni Mitchell has pulled hers as well.
Yes,
Willie Nelson, Peter Frampton.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All the old boomers, everybody's laughing because we're so old doing it. Let me tell you something. None of these young people out here with these new recording artists will never sell the amount of records that these people have sold. And I say this because they lowered the bar for these people to get gold records and all this stuff. The folks ain't even close.
They actually had to sell the physical album, not download,
pushing, right? They sold a tangible item.
Not only that, but think about this: your artists. Hello, you know how much downloads cost compared to an album? I mean, and how much money your person gets off of that streaming thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so true. And
compared
what
to an
happened
actual
is look at
album.
how many people that funded jobs. Not only were you just selling vinyl, you were selling the business of vinyl. Then there were CDs, and you were still funding that business where there were people. It was funding
Actually making them.
Yeah, actually making this. So it was funding a real industry of
Yeah.
thousands of people globally.
Yeah.
And now it's been reduced to everybody scrounging over a couple of just plays. And you consider, I mean, I could have something on streaming all day long and not be listening to one thing about it. People are writing their songs for two minutes. Do you know that they've shortened their songs? Because the algorithm registers the first minute or 60 seconds,
Right.
or it doesn't take in 3 minutes. So they're actually even ripping
even
people
5
off.
minutes.
So now it's like songs are shorter. I mean, pretty soon it's going to be literally a jingle, and that will be number one because that's all they need to hear to make their money. It won't have enough time to listen to music, right? That's how.
I want to get.
So
Think
anyway,
about this too, in terms of how much you like. For example, I have Amazon Music, right? And I've bought, unless you buy, this is the thing about streaming, you pay the monthly, but unless you buy the actual song to download, the artist doesn't get any money when you're just streaming. So unless you download. So I think about the songs that I downloaded, like take my Prince catalog, for example, the songs that I downloaded and paid $129 per song. When I was buying the albums, you're paying like $3 and $4 per song versus what, like even now, some of the songs are down to 69 cents.
Right. For streaming, you have to stream. I have a breakdown that's like, you have to stream like 20,000 to get $100, or if that, or 5 million in order to get $3,000. Like I think that Pharrell, for his song Happy, he went and fought Spotify, which is a garbage company. He fought them as much as Happy was played. I think his check was $3,700.
Well, you know what?
Song was played all over the world. He got it changed a little for people.
Yeah, the payouts that streaming companies are offering and
horrendous
platforms like LinkedIn, all these things, it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's why you have an artist like a Neil Young, like a Joni Mitchell, who can say, guess what? I'm taking my music down.
Right.
Because guess what? It's not going to affect the bottom line when it comes to the pockets. I'd rather people go and just buy an actual physical CD.
Right. And people were upset because Neil Young was doing this because Joe Rogan is putting all these
that's what I wanted to get to also. Yes.
Misinformation candidates and people on his show dissing basically vaccinations and putting out bad information. Now, Spotify was warned before. They've had this before where I believe we canceled with them before an election because of some craziness they were allowing.
They got rid of R. Kelly.
Yeah. And then they won't get rid of Joe Rogan, who basically Neil Young was like, it's either going to be me or him. So people are upset, like, well, Neil Young was always singing, about freedom and blah, blah, blah. But here's the deal. It's not about that. It's called affiliates these days. And as it goes, water seeks its own level. If you do not feel comfortable being affiliated with a brand or whatever they're pushing, you have every right to pull back. Neil Young gave them the opportunity, and they said, basically, Neil, bye, see you later.
And they didn't very specific.
So you, as a business person, I don't need people to be going, oh, but what about that censorship? What about his free speech? But here's the deal. No, a business has every right to operate their freedom of speech for peril or profit. Now, the other part of that coin is consumers get to determine free speech too, and what they want to spend their money on. So the public spoke too. So now Spotify has to deal with that and suck it. It's not a delegitimate, like ill causing them to have to be like, oh my God, they're canceling me because of, my free speech. No, it's that you need to be monitored. The internet needs to be regulated somehow, like everything else with new technology came out. But see, I told you all, this is a problem when you put nerds in the world and let them run it. I said nerds could never get over the trauma of whatever happened in their little, lonely, sad, pathetic lives. God made nerds to sit there for a reason, to just take it and not be seen. They were never supposed to be seen.
No, here's the thing.
Look at all of them. They're all just like, they're just like free speech. Yeah, mom.
Here's
it's
the thing
like
about
bring your
that,
mom to work then.
Here's the thing about
Joe
people
Rogan,
yelling
bring
free
your
speech.
mom and let her fight your battle.
No, but people yelling free speech, it's not free of consequences. There's a consequence for everything.
For profit or
free
peril.
speech,
it's a private business.
It's not free speech means you can say it. It doesn't mean that you won't get criticized or
a foot up your behind
or anything.
Because that's what happens.
And I want to make it even more clear as to why Neil Young specifically went through it, is because he survived polio.
Right. But also look what he did with Pepsi.
Right. But
he wasn't having it when they did. No. Pepsi tried to use one of his songs.
No, but this was very specific because he said this man is talking anti-vax as if vaccinations don't work, but a vaccination saved my life. And people need to hear things like that, because Joe Rogan, he has knowingly said that his information is incorrect.
He's just a liar.
Spotify knows that his information is incorrect, but they chose to keep him. Why? They're choosing profit
downloads
over people. They're choosing profit over people. And here's,
but that's capitalism.
Profit over people, but here's, like Jill said, the people can determine the market.
And go somewhere else.
What people are doing right now are showing Spotify, okay, you want to hold on to him?
Musicians should not be shamed into.
And Apple is having fun with it too.
But yeah, I mean, I don't even like Apple all that much. But the thing is, musicians shouldn't be shamed into keeping their stuff there or not, or taking their stuff away, because it comes down to, it's like if you have affiliate marketing. Let's say a designer, Chanel, is not going to put their in Walmart. It's as they all sell clothes, but they're like, you're messing with my brand. So it's kind of like, I'm not going to get in bed with Spotify because you're starting to mess. You see, if I'm not mistaken, didn't corporations want to be seen as people? Are they getting tax breaks as human beings?
Yes.
So Spotify, we see you and we know you just all about being greedy. You don't care. So Spotify revealed herself or himself. And the whole thing is, the hustle and the hustlers, as PJ Harvey said. So that
I haven't heard that artist's name in a long time. Boy,
I love her.
Bringing it out.
This is the thing that I don't understand. I personally don't like Spotify, and I'm like, if there are,
I don't either. I need to take all these stuff off of it too.
Oh,
I don't even use it.
I don't even use it. If there are so many streaming services.
I've never earned a dime, and I've sold. People listen to my stuff. I have nothing. I know nothing about it, and it's like it doesn't need to be there. I don't know who's making the money, but all these other companies called Grooves and everybody else. There's like all these chain link of people involved. If artists go and if you're loading your music, you can kind of see it's like, but not everybody is taking it as seriously as a Joni Mitchell, or a lot of people did. A lot of people will support him, and that's fine. But a lot of people also don't know that he has 2 children that have cerebral palsy. So vaccines and people not having them jeopardize his children and their lives. I mean, they're older and now, but I'm sure that they're immune compromised. So there's a lot of reasons that, but he's also just such a good guy. Neil Young is just a great guy.
I mean, even if you just, I don't understand how people are still holding on to Spotify. It's a platform, and this.
You can't hear properly. Like Tidal had the better sound, but I don't even pay for any of them. I'm using the free services, and I think my manager put up my music on Spotify. I don't really engage. I've never earned a dime.
I mean, I use Amazon Music because it's included with my Prime. It's
basically a platform now because it opened up the doors for people to do podcasts. The problem is that would they have let Charles Manson have a podcast? Would they where did they draw the line is the question. Can Prince Andrew get a Spotify account and do a podcast defending himself? Who else can in this day and age, it's like we're looking at, the bombers from the World Trade Center. If they would have gotten money on a podcast, Spotify would have had them on. They got a podcast. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're living in a very weird time where people are putting money ahead of a lot of things decent. And it's kind of weird. It's creepy. And that's just crazy. Who was the guy that was
Joe Rogan is not a journalist. Yeah. He needs
to go back to eating bugs. He's not even that bug show. What was it, that show that everybody was eating spiders?
Like Blue Rain said, Fear Factor. That's it.
That's how he came on this scene. Yeah. So that is even more crazy that, here he's no Alan Ludden. We have a dude who was on a show where people were eating the most gross stuff and vomiting on TV. That was the lowest of the low. He's like Jerry Springer and all those people. That's it. They're just gross.
And even Jerry Springer was mayor. I mean,
you've answered Cinema Canella's question. Is this Joe Rogan a journalist? Do we know what profession he has?
No.
Lawyer,
Fear
perhaps?
Fear factor.
He got, and then he tried to be a reality show. Period.
Wait, and then he opened for Dave Chappelle recently in Louisiana as a comedian, and I saw him as a comedian before COVID, and I kept going, "Who is this guy? He's not funny." I was at the Comedy Store with my daughter for someone's birthday party, and Joe Rogan was there, and he was not funny. He was a real meathead white guy, if you know what I mean, like. The things they were moaning about, women, and just one of those hipsters who decided to lift weights and then had moved into taking steroids. And he wasn't funny. So then he got a podcast because then he started piggybacking off of other comedians who were having podcasts. And he's just one of those guys who, I don't know, is kind of creepville.
So Cinema Canella saying, I used to have Tidal, but now just free streaming services.
Me too.
She also says, "Ooh, Fear Factor." Yeah, Blue Rain says, "I don't know why he's so popular." Cinema Canella says,
young white males love him and their dumb girlfriends love him.
Cinema Canella says, "Me neither." Blue Rain, not Blood Rain, and also Blood Rain. And Cinema says, blue, sorry. So as we end off this conversation, the question is, Blue Rain is asking, do y'all think Spotify will drop Rogan if more popular artists pull their music?
No.
Oh, yeah. I honestly,
you think? I think they'll put tabs on him, like
honestly,
restrictions.
It would take you'd have to have a bunch of people pull theirs. Like if Taylor Swift pulled hers, Adele, a lot of people who are,
and they're not going to do that,
right? They would consider it, but it would have to be like 25, 30
but
people.
the young artists are not that way
on one day, but they won't do it.
Young artists are never, they're thinking about their money too. Right. They will never be those kind of artists.
No.
We should never look to them. They're not activists. Everything they do is for the money. Someone like from boomers, that's our generation. Even astrologically, the planet of Uranus was in our generation house. We're about change. We're about, I will jam you up. You know what I mean? These other ones, they're like, I'm going to try to straddle the fence and I'm going to look like I'm going to do something, but I'm not. And then,
Look,
that's
maybe Jill, you need to be at the Comedy Store on stage.
They're not going to do. They're all going to be selling a bunch of stuff.
Been different.
Or they'll find something else to do, like give money to something. They'll find a cause. Trust me.
They'll get X number of COVID tests and
they'll do
N95 masks to.
But they never are straight up like, yo. They're going to be doing like, I just don't think that the mandates are great. But they won't really ever condemn Joe Rogan for like, you know, if you're going to have somebody on there who's going to talk that smack, you need to have another person on the other side at least to challenge Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson, your guy from Canada, he's become as weird as a, you know, freaking, I don't know what's happened to him. And what actually has happened to these guys, it's called fame. Yeah. And I've seen it a million times with people. That's why some of them were always meant to be nobodies. And in the, you know, National Enquirer level, now they all get a platform. And there was always something about those weird guys who were eating azuki beans. You know what I mean?
And then here's the sad part, though, about today's artists.
Azuki beans.
You know, those freaky, like,
no, I don't want to know. Well, I don't want to know what they are. Aisha, please finish off.
The sad part about today's
Get this Cali girl off our screen.
The sad part about today's artists is that when you think about something like you go back to the 80s, remember how many artists participated in the Sun City song and got American companies across the board to divest from South Africa.
That would never happen today.
Of the segregation there and the apartheid. They would never do that. They would never do that. And it's kind of like everybody's they're so individualized and so in their own silos.
Their own brand.
There is no kind of unity as a sense of being musicians.
Can't harm the brand.
We're unified. So again,
maybe doing another fire festival. Who was that dumb rapper who was trying to do that fire festival with all those rich white kids who it didn't exist? And,
oh yeah. That was a big scam. That was a huge scam.
Who sang that? What's love?
Can't remember.
Who was the rapper on that?
Ja Rule.
Okay, Ja Rule invested in this camp where everybody, you know, it's going to be a concert and everything. Yeah, if it was Sun City, they would have been out there, you know, trying to have a party, and our folks too would have been selling out the other Black folks. There'd been a few of us out there, you know, who don't take sides, the Tim Coon Scott's kind.
Oh Jesus! Why do you have to bring that? You're gonna make me lose it
because
again.
It's sad because they could actually have a moment. You know what I mean?
All right, let's stop.
I wanted to say one interesting thing. Okay. Now, I know we always did the cockroach of the day, and I'm starting to feel really bad about it because at the Bronx Zoo, they have this event where you can name a cockroach after someone you love.
We should have trademarked it. We should trademark it.
You can name a cockroach after someone you love for Valentine's Day, and a lot of people have there's the Madagascar ones, and they're apparently incredibly intelligent, and it's really kind of fascinating. I think we got to think of something that's even lower than a cockroach, and I don't think it needs to be an animal. I think it should be, you know, poop of the day or something. I'm just not sure.
I'm sorry. I think we should go with animal. If we're going to go with animal, it should be rat because DC is full of
them. No,
the number of rats in DC outrank the number of people.
I agree, but rats too are super intelligent.
So, folks, you see, I have no control over this conversation at all. This one, I just like thrown ever since the
jackals.
To me, rodents are just.
I lost control after the Tim Scott reference. After I was just
maggot is pretty good.
Jeez, all right. Well, folks, we are done because this is so out of control, but so much fun.
Yes.
Just want to get some comments here. Blue Rain's apologizes for the blood rain. I was calling this a reference. Cinema Canela says, I need spell check. Blue Rains has been laughing. Now, was it Nelly?
It's
Or
Ja
was
Ja
it
Rule.
It's Ja Rule?
Ja Rule
Okay.
Ja Rule and Ashanti. That's the song.
All right. Okay. And Blue Rain loves maggot.
Thanks,
Oh
Jen.
my goodness. Jen is saying, great conversation. Thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you to everyone tonight live. Cinema Blue Rains, Jen as always, Black Beauty, Christy White. Anybody else? Oh, William. Yes, new fan from Toronto area, William, who I know, and I'd like to say thanks to everyone. Christy White says, great conversation. As always, we like to thank everyone who watches us live or watches on the replay and also listens to us on the replay. We have so much fun. And you see what happens when they're not live for a week, folks? They take it up a notch. You notice that? So before we let our wonderful ladies leave, contact information. First up, Jill
D. Jones at Twitter.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Aisha.
Aisha Staggers at Twitter. And I haven't been on Twitter very much, but that's probably the best.
Yeah,
one.
you haven't really.
Okay, there we go. And back to myself. You can find me at a number of different places. The Dr. Vibe Show on the web, the drvibeshow.com, Twitter at drvibeshow, Instagram, the drvibeshow. Any inquiries, anything good, bad, or ugly you want to say, email me. I protect Jill and Aisha. Thank you very much. Even though I'm in a different country, thank you very much. dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. If you want to watch replays of this epic conversation, go to my website, the drvibeshow.com. You can catch the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and Facebook, and also subscribe on both those platforms. Would appreciate it. Not taken for granted. So as always, we're going to close off with this. Let me just see, someone else has something to say. Let me get the Cinema Canala says, good night all. Well, thank you. Good night to you. Stay safe. All right. And thanks for jumping in. I know you were late tonight, but glad you came in for a bit. This is how we end off. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourselves grace. I'll end off with this. Don't manage your time. Manage your energy. God bless. Peace be all. Keep the faith. We'll catch you next week, God willing, and everyone in good health. Bye-bye, everybody. Be well.